What's up, Cam?
Not much. Just deciding if I'm gonna land at Tilted Towers or Logjam Lumberyard.
Yeah. Well, right before I hit the recording, I says, let's jump onto this airplane. Let's go. And of course, he made a Fortnite reference. So if you're lost, that's why you're lost. So, all right.
Anyways, how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I got out and mowed the lawn for the first time for the year this morning. Burned through two batteries, which it usually only takes me one battery to do the lawn. But we had, like I mentioned on the last episode, we got True Green coming in, fertilizing and stuff. Yeah, that was simultaneously good and bad for me because we got lots of grass now. So I had to actually stop before I was finished. So there's a patch in the backyard, thankfully, that's not quite done. And because the yard was so thick, my mower was kind of chugging on it. And so I've got to go back and clean up some spots up in the front yard too. Once I got batteries and the grass is completely dry instead of just partially dry. So, but man, I had spots where the grass, I swear, was like 6 inches long. And it's not like I've been sitting on this for weeks. It's just like this last week I looked and I was like, oh, I probably need to put a mowing on the lawn. And then all of a sudden we get all this rain and just out of control. So, but I got the bulk of it done. It shouldn't take me too much to finish it up. But yeah, the joys of home ownership.
Yeehaw.
Yeah. But I wanted to follow up on our podcast app discussion from last time. You remember? Did you saw the text message that I sent you? Correct.
Yes.
I sent him just the dialogue box that popped up that says, "Do you want to delete Overcast? Cancel or delete?" And then I said,
Dun dun dun.
My decision's been made. So I went ahead and switched over to Pocket Cast. So
I'm liking this trend.
yeah. Well, you tried to get me on Good Task and I ended up on Todoist. So you didn't get a total win there. But you've been right a few times.
Yeah, my Good Task experiment only lasted a few months.
Yeah. It's such a cool thing in concept to be able to have like a more elaborate front end for reminders, but I just don't think that it had a lot of staying power. Didn't for me, for sure. But anyway, Pocket Casts. So there's a lot of reasons why I did this. So I should probably talk about there were some emotional decisions why, in this process. I think it's fair to say, and maybe I'm being a little bit vulnerable here, but I think it's fair to say that we have an emotional connection to the things in our lives that we use every day. And I really liked the idea of Overcast. I've used it for a lot of years and quite honestly thought that I'd be giving up a lot to ever move away from it. But in our discussion the last time and in listening to Marco talk about, well, I'm definitely not going to do this because it's dumb and people just got to get used to the new design. And just his attitude about like people don't like your product because of a change you made. Maybe you want to think about dialing back that change. And now I throw Marco under the bus, but Casey was right along with him. And in the conversation, it kind of made sense. But, after talking to you and you being adamantly opposed to the pill design, and looking at Pocket Casts and the fact that, what, one of the things that I'd kind of always wanted from Overcast was a Mac desktop player, and Pocket Cast has that. And Marco's always said, there's not enough people that use that for me to ever want to do that. So I know that was never going to come. And so for those reasons, I decided that I really wanted to look at some other players. And I know we talked about Castro and and then when it came right down to it, looking at Pocket Casts, I've had to change a little bit of the way that I have done things, but I think for the better. So, my old workflow, if you want to call it that, for podcasts was always the podcast download. They automatically filter into the smart list that I have designed or have put together. And then whatever smart lists are there, that I'll start with my Q smart list. And then I have another one that my wife and I just have separated out for my wife and I. And so I'll go into Q. I just start the top one because I have them ordered oldest to newest. And so in doing that, like I would always just listen out of my Q smart list. And then he made all the changes to Overcast recently. And I thought, well, let's try running this without a smart list. And that kind of didn't work for me. So I added the smart list back. And the design wasn't great. I'm not going to say it's ugly. I didn't feel like it was really ugly, but it wasn't pretty. So then when I decided to try Pocket Cast for a week and just buy into it that way. And quite honestly, I'm starting to lose my need for the playlist concept. I have filters set up, and that really informs like what I listen to in what contexts. But I'm really liking the up next feature. It's like a little spot to store the podcasts that I want to listen to now. And so right now in Pocket Casts, I have 7 episodes that, a couple of them I just have sitting there because I'm waiting to listen to them because I was waiting to finish a show that we're going to talk about a little bit later to listen to a couple episodes, which now I'm finished. I'm able to go back and listen to those now. But having stuff kind of saved and then having stuff in your up next that actually is what you're listening to, I think works really nice for me. And one podcast that I decided not to listen to anymore because of the way Overcast worked. And I didn't realize that's why I did it. But I stopped listening to The Incomparable because of the fact that not every episode was one I wanted to listen to. Because, they would have an episode that was about a book that they had read that I really didn't have any interest in. But then they would talk about a show that I really liked. Or a movie that I really liked, but then they would talk about a comic book that I had no idea, never read or anything. So, some episodes were for me, some episodes weren't. And in Overcast, they would just stack up. And then I'd have to go through every once in a while, and you got to tap into it. You got to tap the eye to look at the information for it, read the description, go back, swipe it, and it just didn't flow real easily. With Pocket Casts, when I get the notification, I can look at it or I can just pull it up from the notification, or I can go into the app and just look at it and go, oh, okay, so I've got this new Incomparable episode. I just tap on it and it brings up a screen that lets me, it shows that it's downloaded. It lets me add it to up next. It lets me mark it as played. It lets me archive it. And right below that, it has the description easily accessible. So I just look at it. Okay. Oh, they're talking about that. Let's go ahead and add that to up next. Oh, I don't like that. Let's send it to the archive. And it just really works much smoother for especially that podcast. But overall, I think it's a prettier app. I'm not real thrilled with the concept of filters versus playlists. I almost rather them call them like smart playlists, but I'm over that for the most part. But yeah. So all in all, I think that I would really like to see the pod or the iPad player get some love, because I think that it's
that's a good point.
It's just really not designed specifically for the iPad. It's almost like, we got a private player on the iPad. We'll just throw this on there and we're good to go. I would like to see them do something more like Overcast, where you have the column view. So you have like the little player on the side, and then maybe like your show notes in the middle, and all your podcasts in whatever list you're in the first column, and have kind of like a nice little 3-column view for landscape when you're in landscape in that app. That's what I like personally. But then we talked about the letter sizing in the show notes and how ridiculously small it was. And that should really get some attention too. But overall, I've switched over to Pocket Casts and I'm super happy with it. And on top of that, not long after switching over to Pocket Casts, I'm trying to remember what podcast I was listening to that was sponsored by Pocket Casts. So
they're always listening, Mitch.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. So, but there it is. Anything you wanted to add?
Well, I don't use any of the filters or smart playlists. I just go to the main podcast screen and I just like, okay, I want to listen to this show. And I just, and I don't use like the up next or the queue. Like I don't use any of those features. So that makes switching a lot easier to different, is because I'm like, okay, I'm mowing the lawn. Let's look. Do I want to listen to one of these 10? I want to listen to this show today because I want to laugh, or whatever. And I usually listen to like one, maybe 2 episodes at a time, So, mine is very much a, what's the word? More of like an ad hoc approach. Like, okay, what do I want to listen to now? Boom. Then it's done. I've got to move on to do something else. And so I've never, ever taken advantage of those. Like in Overcast, I was always just in the all episodes feed.
Yeah.
So
what
I'm much less, my words are failing me today. My needs are far less for that sort of advanced feature set.
Yeah. Well, one thing I did really like is that when you're on the player view, when it comes to up next, and you tap up in this upper corner, it pulls up your up next queue. I don't know if you can see that. So you can see, okay, these are the episodes that I have decided I want to listen to next. And in some cases, you know what? I should probably finish that episode up real quick and go to another one of those episodes. Anything you've started goes into up next. So you can just real quickly get to that. And if you want to switch a podcast, you can switch to another podcast. Otherwise, you can just look and see, hey, what's up next to play? And if you don't want to listen to that next, then you can switch it up for something else. And it works really nice. So yeah, I'm super, super excited about this. It's working really well for me.
Well, I'm glad. It makes me happy.
I'm glad it makes you happy. And that's another hashtag Cam was right.
I'm never going to say it, but if you want to, I will take it.
All right. Sounds good. All right. So I've had some church tech woes lately. And we talked just a little bit off the air about a couple of things we could talk about today. And I know some of this is going to be a little bit of a retread from stuff we've talked about in the past, but at the same time, I think it's going to be some new, interesting stuff that we'll talk about and hopefully take a little bit different perspective on it as well for everybody. But my camera stopped working at church a couple weeks back. So,
this I did not know.
So we're doing this conference a couple weeks ago, which is probably a topic for the show all in and of itself, but because it was just kind of a little Looney Tunes.
Bugs Bunny was there.
It was pretty crazy.
Succotash.
I think he was the one speaking at the conference. But in the midst of this conference, my camera stopped working during one of the sessions. And it was pretty early on in the sessions. So I switched over. I downloaded Cameo Studio. and used my phone for the camera, which, by the way, actually did a pretty good job. You know, you could tell that if you really looked, that the camera wasn't as nice as the nice like $900 camera with 30 times optical zoom, and it was all pan tilt and zoom, and you know, it is a pretty nice camera that we're using. I mean, you could spend more on a camera, but for what it is, it's really nice.
Yeah.
And it stops working in, you know, in the middle of this one session. So the next day, this was a Friday night. You and I recorded the next morning, and I didn't say anything about it, but we went back that afternoon, and I just set up my phone to record, and everything worked great. You know, so actually that Friday night I used the phone to record, but I just recorded it directly to my phone. I didn't hook it up to anything. Well, I got Cameo Studio installed, and got Camo Studio. Did I say Cameo? Camo Studio. Got that installed, got the app installed on my phone, connected it with a cable, with USB cable, and it worked great. It was real stable. I had it on my my Osmo gimbal, and it worked really well. But I had to solve this problem because I wasn't going to use my phone for everything. So I went over there the other day. We had ordered, because, you know, we used the Elgato Cam Link to bring the camera into the computer, and the Cam Link seemed like it would be the most obvious issue, you know, that or the HDMI cable that runs to the camera. And so, but I had to troubleshoot it. So I had the church order an Atom Mini Pro from Blackmagic. Which, by the way, number one comment I got from everybody that I suggested it to: you mean we're going to use something called Blackmagic at church?
The funny thing is when we got that at our church like a year and a half ago, not a single person. Not a single person.
Everybody I mentioned it to, it's like, oh yeah, Blackmagic makes us. They're like, Blackmagic.
Oh my god!
I was like, dude, it's a company. Get over it. So we ordered this in, and you know, and to me, and I talked to the pastor about this too. This is future proofing for us, because we wanted to add another camera, at least one more, if not two, two more cameras to the system. So this is going to kind of future proof us for that. And thankfully, I was able to tell him that right away that morning when I was hooking everything up. Told him, hey, when you guys are ready to add another camera, get our electrical guy in to run the cabling and everything, and get this all hooked up, then we're ready for it, because this switcher is going to do everything that we need. So he was relatively excited about that. So I got it all hooked up, and still no video from the camera. I'm like, shoot. So it's not the Cam Link now. So I climbed up, I took the camera down off the wall, which was no small feat. I had to, because we put an outlet in up there to plug the camera in and everything. So I had to pull that all apart and bring that down and unscrew everything to bring the camera down. So then I got the camera down on the sound booth and used a different HDMI cable, and it worked. It's like, oh.
Well, I mean, of all the things to break, the HDMI cable is the cheapest. So
well, the cheapest, but not the easiest, because we fished this through the wall from underneath the soundboard all the way up to the camera. Mm-hmm. And I had questions when we put that in about the quality of the HDMI cable that we were using. And I think that might have been the issue. So we ordered a higher quality HDMI cable, and we're going to have to refish it sometime this next week. But the problem is we don't have a lot of space where we're fishing it through. And the HDMI cables are not small in comparison to everything else that we've got in there. So when we fished the first one through, it was a chore to get it in, or to get it through. It took two of us, one person pulling and one person pushing to get this thing through. So now we have to fish another HDMI cable through this wall. Thankfully, we can probably just attach it to the HDMI cable that we have and just let it run through, you know, just pull it through with the old HDMI cable. But man, what a pain. And I mean, he put this outlet in for it that day and the whole thing. So it was a full day project to put this camera in. But yeah, so at least we know what it is now. I've got a nice camera to use on Sunday for church, and we should have the new cable in, so I can at least hook it up and put it back up on its mount on the wall, and make everything look nice from there. So, but but I'm excited about this Atom Mini Pro. I'm the guy that likes to read the instruction manual, and I'm really excited about the possibilities that this thing gives us. I think we have another video switcher that we use for sending video to the projector in the sanctuary. So we can switch to a few different video sources for that projector, and so that works really nice for us because my pastor just got a Surface Studio, one of the drafting table style computers, and so he can run PowerPoint on there and actually annotate his slides and stuff like that. So if he's got scripture on there, he can circle, he can underline, and just do different things like that. He likes that. He tried that for the first time last week, and he was just like a kid in a candy store playing with this thing. It was great. But and afterwards he said, did it work really well? And I was like, yeah, it looked great. And I got it on the live stream just fine. And it was great. And he's like, oh, he's like, because I didn't realize how much fun I was going to have using it. So, but I anticipate that's going to be a regular feature now when he's preaching. So, but yeah, it was cool. But that switcher is what gives us the ability to go from our regular presentation software to that computer and then back. So that adds the complexity for me to be able to put that on the live stream. So what I'm doing right now is I've got an Elgato HD60 Plus, I think it is, that I run that video feed through, and then it pulls that off for the camera. So you have one of those, I assume, right? Or you know what I'm talking about? The little streaming boxes.
Oh, the Elgato ones, yeah.
Yeah.
So I've seen them.
Yeah, so that's how I'm doing that. Is I've got his the feed from his computer up front going into that box, and then coming back out and going into the video switcher. And then there's the USB-C cable that plugs into that box, and then plugs into the Mac Mini that we're using, and gives me the video feed to be able to put into the live stream. So, and it worked really nice last week. So I've got him on the live stream on the left or the right hand side of the screen with a big like evening news kind of like over the shoulder shot of the computer that he's using, and all the annotating he's doing is right on the screen. It looks really neat. It turned out pretty cool. So
did you know that with the oh my gosh, the Mini Pro, the switcher?
Yeah, the Atom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can stream directly from that box.
Oh yeah. I was looking at that.
Because we used to be, before we got that, and we were doing Facebook, streams for COVID. It was this whole deal that we had to go through. And then once we got that and we set it up, you literally push a button and it starts your live video, and you're good to go, and you push it again and you're done. And there's no more logging in, logging out, testing that. You just like, boom, you test it once, you're good, hit the button. Obviously you check to make sure that it's live after that, but it's so nice just to be able to, and then it tracks all of the switches that you make. And we only make a handful, because we have two cameras. We've got one at the back of the sanctuary. That's the main shot that covers the whole stage.
Yeah.
And then we have one on the left side of the sanctuary. That's the pan, tilt, and zoom, camera. So that's when someone's doing announcements, or someone's speaking from the stage, or our pastor is preaching from the floor. We were able to, zoom in and all that as well. So I think for our sakes, the Mini Pro is a bit overkill, but um because we only have two cameras, we have the ability to expand to more.
Yeah.
But we we are more of a we never used to live stream before COVID ever.
Yeah.
We did it because of COVID, and we had a number of people in our body that even once the vaccines came out were either immunocompromised or high risk, and so they decided to stay home. So we kept the stream up, but it's not something that I think we feel like we need to invest $3,000 more in to get a bunch of extra cameras.
Yeah.
I have a strong opinion about this, and this may be different than other folks at my church, that there's a line at church production quality that I don't think should be crossed. Like if I go to church and I feel like I'm at a concert or I'm attending some event, the production quality is too high.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, I feel like if I go to church, like I want things should be done excellently, because that's just part of what God calls us to, is to live life in an excellent way in all the areas. And so I don't want to, walk in and have the pastor sound like he's talking through a Wendy's drive-through because the microphone's, clipping. But at the same time, like I said, if I feel like I'm at a concert or I'm attending like a professional event instead of being a part of a local congregation, like with babies crying, or like to me there's a sweet spot of doing things well, but still not like well enough that it gets out of the way and the focus of why we're there remains.
Right.
And I'm not distracted. Like people like at the church know this about me, and they're like, "Hey man, we're getting smoke machines for Easter." And I was like, "Great, I won't be here then."
Yeah.
You want a fog machine on this? No. And like they do it just to rile me up because they know how like annoyed I get by it,
My pastor's like that.
Yeah. So he's like, "Hey man, my pastor's like, hey, I just ordered 3 fog machines, dude. They're coming." I'm like, "Ken, I will punch you." Sorry.
We've often joked that sometime when my pastor plays drums in the worship band every once in a while, and we've joked that one of these Sundays we're just going to throw like a 5-gallon bucket of water behind him and just walk up and drop some dry ice in there right before the the service starts. But I think our church is the same way. I think for me, when it comes to having the multiple cameras, it's just trying to smooth the rough edges of the production value. Because right now, if I need to make a camera move, I have to go to a full screen logo shot, like our church logo, or I have to go to a full screen of like the title sermon slide that we have, or I have to go away from the camera, make the camera move, and then come back to the camera, where it would be really nice to have a second camera so I can do an interstitial shot of that camera, or just switch to that camera for a minute and then come back to camera one, and so in talking about that with the church, and with like my worship leader, who's technically my boss at the church, and just talking about how like we can smooth some of these rough edges and make this look a little bit more professional. I do want to start exploring lower thirds a little bit more, just to kind of make sure that people, if we have an elder come up to make an announcement, it would be nice to have a little lower third build out to say, well, who is this person? Because they don't always introduce themselves. So, hey, this is so-and-so. And then just have that build out, and just kind of keep a nice, clean, presentable look to it. And I've been playing around in Motion a little bit to learn how to make those lower thirds and stuff. And I've downloaded a couple of like sample packs of other people's design. So
you guys use what's your software that you use?
We use Proclaim for the presentation software, but are you talking about live streaming?
No, I was talking about your presentation software.
Yeah. No, I can do lower thirds than that. Yeah, it has an NBI output. The problem that I was having though is that NDI output was actually interfering with the Elgato HD60 that we have hooked up. So if I switched something in the in Proclaim that had and it had a like a live stream slide or had that NDI that loaded in, it actually cut out the HD60's stream. So it was just some weird interaction that it's having in the computer. So I've kind of moved away from using the NDI out of Proclaim to do that. But
Interesting.
yeah, so because I was doing so much with that before, and I really liked the look of it. It looked really cool, and you know, it was nice to do that stuff. But in Ecamm Live that I use for doing the live streaming, they have a simple lower third feature that you can do that looks really nice. It's really clean. It animates. You know, you can have it slide up from the bottom and then slide back down, and it looks clean and nice. But you can also do like video overlays. So that's where I was looking at doing like a nice little build out. Maybe have the like the logo of the church kind of spin up and then have something build out of it with the name and position in the church, and then just have that suck back into the logo and have it disappear, or you know, just something fun like that. So that's kind of what I was looking at.
Yeah.
But I got to do a lot more study and learning to actually figure that out. But
Yeah, it's a whole new world.
yeah, it's fun.
Don't you dare close your eyes.
but yeah, so those are the woes that I was having, and the excitement of finding other ways to do things. The one thing I didn't mention about the Atom Mini Pro that we got is you know, it has picture in picture on it, so you can put picture in picture windows on your live stream. So I was looking into that to see, well, can I bring our Proclaim slides into that from not from my computer, but from the computer of the guy that's running the in-house slides. So, because I run a separate set of slides for the live stream typically. So could I take that complication off of my plate and let him run the slides and me just run the video production and just find a way to bring that in? Well, I'm going to experiment a little bit with using the Atom Mini Pro to like split the feed off from our other video switcher to run into the Atom Mini Pro, so that I've got my own feed coming from that. And I'm looking to see if I can get that to work nice and stable or not, because stability is always the issue. You know.
Yes.
You know, when you start talking about splitting video feeds and stuff, and then you're running through hundreds of or 100 feet of HDMI cable, and you know, so
yeah, we just had an issue a month ago at our church where one of our HDMI splitters conked out because we're sending. So we've got two projectors in the sanctuary, one that is above the stage for the congregation and one at the back of the sanctuary for the folks on stage. Then we've got a TV in the hallway outside, a TV in the nursery where moms can go and breastfeed if they need to in privacy, and then a projector in the basement that's showing the feed as well. So yeah, I did not set it up. Someone else did that knows much more about that sort of stuff than I do. But yeah, we had to deal with that, and then we got a new box and it wasn't working the best, and we had to because it was different, and we're like, oh, only certain ports can have certain features. It's like, oh man. So it was like right around Good Friday and Easter when all this happened.
Yeah. And
so I helped make the slides for the Easter presentation because my pastor, he wants my help because he doesn't preach every Sunday. Like probably 4 out of 5 Sundays, we bring in Craig Rochelle via video. And so my pastor preaches, maybe 10, 12 times a year. And so when he does, I help him with the slides. And so Easter, he was preaching, and we had this issue, and all of the slides were like zoomed in to like 115%. So it looked like someone tried really bad.
Yeah.
And I was fuming the entire time. I was like, no, this was done so well. There was space and alignment, and it like, and then like everything was just cut off. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we look like idiots.
You have no idea how I identify with that.
Oh my God. I was, and some people were like,
yourself.
Yeah, some people were like, well, I didn't even notice. And I was like, half the word was cut off. Like, how did you not notice? You can't read that. Oh man, I was
so we
not happy.
So we had to deal with an issue with our projector because the Mac or the iMac that we run the Proclaim off of, that goes to the front, that goes to the projector, is slightly different from any of the Windows machines we've ever hooked up to the system. So I've had to zoom in, I've had to set it up with the camera just in a certain way. Well, when we had the conference here a couple weeks ago, the guy hooked up his MacBook, completely different resolution. It was coming off of the screen that we had up there. And so I had to go in and I had to make all these adjustments to bring the screen size down. And then he did his first session. And one of the slides, like half the words were cut off on the top. It's like, so I had to move the picture down so you could see that. And it was just ridiculous.
Oh man, that stuff is infuriating.
But here's how we handle the situation that you're talking about with all those screens. I have, coming out of my iMac, now understand, I should explain, this is my Mac Mini that is in the sound booth, is the computer that we do all of the live streaming off of. Everything that has anything to do with the live stream runs on that machine. The iMac, we've got a 24-inch iMac in the booth. That's the one that the Proclaim runs off of for all our in-house stuff. So Proclaim, we have send up to the projector, and then we also have a TV in the back. But Proclaim, and you might want to look into it with do you use ProPresenter, or what do you use?
Yeah, we're on ProPresenter 7.
Okay. Do you know if there's a confidence monitor in ProPresenter?
A confidence monitor?
Yeah, there's a thing called a confidence monitor in Proclaim that normally it would be like on the stage. They would have TVs angled up so that people on
the stage display that has like the next slide or lyrics or time. That's built in.
So what we did, and I did this a few months back as a test, and they liked it so much, is that I have one feed coming out of the computer that goes to our video switcher that then goes up to the projector, if you follow all that. So there's one feed coming out that goes to the projector. There's a separate video output that goes to the TV in the back. Now I can set that TV up any way that I want to. I can mirror it to the front. I can set up the confidence monitor in the back. So what I do is I set up the confidence monitor in the back because it has the time on it. We can set up a countdown timer to put on it. It has some of the words from the next slide at the bottom, or you can set it up in presenter view so you see both slides. During worship, instead of showing the fully, like the graphics and all that kind of stuff, it shows white letters on a black background, so it's super easy to read from the back wall of the church. So it gives us a lot more flexibility with what we put up in the front, so that we always know that it's legible in the back. That it can be read, and it's bigger letters. It's really designed to be read from a distance. So everybody's really been excited about that and really have appreciated that. One thing I do for my pastor is we put the clock on the back confidence monitor. So if you can imagine a 65-inch TV on the back wall with a big clock on it, it's like he can't not know what the time is just looking out at the audience because there's a massive clock on the back wall. So, but that's something that we do. Now to solve the issue with like out in the foyer, we have two audio, two speakers that run out to a little like fellowship area out there. So if somebody needs to go out there and sit or whatever, they can sit and still listen to the sermon, but it's just the speakers. There's no slides. In our mother's room and our nursery, because you can't really hear what's going on in the sanctuary anyway, we actually put the live stream on those TVs back there. So yeah, there's a 40-second delay, but they don't notice it because they're not worrying about what's, it being synced up with what's in the sanctuary. So we just have a couple of Google Chrome sticks on those computers. We pull YouTube up in the on that Google Chrome stick, throw the video up there, and just let it stream back there. So it works out really nice for us because it's not taxing our computers in the sound booth to be able to handle all of that. So
yeah, and especially since you're streaming to YouTube and not Facebook, the Chromecast, that's a super smart solution.
And they're totally stable. We had some Windows machines, like these little sticks that you'd plug into the back of the computer that were Windows machines. Those things were garbage. Like they just did not work very well. And so when we switched back, because we had a Google Chrome stick out in the foyer, because another thing that that Proclaim offers us is what they call digital signboards. So we can put a signboard out in, just a TV, and it's just a website that you go to and pop it full screen that just like cycles through slides. And so that works super nice for being able to put announcements up there. We're able to mix like little scripture things. Like they'll have a verse up there that'll be like real pretty and done up, real nice graphically. And we could actually set it up so that during the service, the slides that are in the sanctuary are coming up on there too. I don't have it set up that way, but that is possible too. There's a slight delay and it's a little wonky sometimes, but that's possible too. So, but yeah, so those are ways that we kind of get around having to split off onto 5 different TVs to handle that. So
yeah, smart.
But I'll have to send you like what we do for the digital signboard sometime, so you can just kind of see what it looks like, and it's pretty clever the way they made that. And it's all tied into, like, I can go right into Proclaim and add slides, and if I'm in like the worship service for tomorrow and I want to add a slide to the digital signboard, I literally just go over and click, or like, I think it's right click on the slide, and it gives me the option to add to digital signboard. And I just tap that and it adds that to that feed. Now, nice. One of the cool things is if it's an announcement slide, announcement slides have time and dates and everything on them. So if I put that slide into the digital signboard and say, like, today they had a men's breakfast, so tomorrow I forgot to take that off the digital signboard, well, it doesn't matter because it knows that it was yesterday. So it knows not to put it on the digital signboard tomorrow. So
that's really neat.
So it's really clever how that works. It just grays that out in the feed, so that you can go in and like change the dates and like say maybe there's going to be another one next month. So you just change the dates and then it'll pop back in. So
that's clever.
Yeah, it works really cool. The guys at Faith Life that have come up with Logos, they have their social network, they have Proclaim, and a whole host of other things. Like, it's all like really good and really clever. I think the problem that a lot of people have with it is because it's so good and so clever and they have so many people working on it, it costs a lot of money. So, so it can be kind of a thing. So I think we pay like $40 a month for the, for, Proclaim. We could do it yearly. I think it's like $400 a year or something like that. So we'd save a little bit of money doing yearly, but, I'm paying for it as my tithe. So they've argued with me and wanted to take it over, but it's something like I just keep, oh yeah, I'll do it. And then I never, never give them the keys to it. So, but anyway.
So I'm looking up, you said you can pay $400 a year.
Yeah. It depends on the size of your church. You pay by the size of the church.
Yeah. That's the same as Pro Presenter. It's
Okay.
$3.99 a year. But I think they do it based on size too. Yeah, so it's for one seat you get for $400. And so, like when I was using Pro Presenter for youth group, I'd have to log out of the Pro Presenter account and the iMac and the Sanctuary, and then sign in on my MacBook Air in the basement so that I could use it and then do it again. Because if you want more than one seat, you go from $400 to $1,000.
Okay, so
for 1 year
for Proclaim, it's unlimited computers. So
for $400
for $400 a year. Yep. Because my pastor's running it on his computer. My worship leader runs it on her computer. I run it on my iMac at home and my MacBook and the Mac Mini in the sound booth and the iMac in the sound booth. So it's like, and I know that there's probably some other installations too.
You guys can all collaborate during the week on the same on the. Oh man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it syncs up. Whoever. Sometimes if you're working on it on the same time as somebody else's, you'll see little glitches because it'll be updating while you guys are working on it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it syncs up.
All right. Well, I might have to take more of a look at this now.
Oh, hashtag Mitchell's right.
Well, you might be, because there's been a couple times in the last year where I've had to talk my pastor off the cliff. He's like, I'm just gonna spend $1,000. I was like, no, that's such a waste of money. Like, especially for a church like us that doesn't have a lot. Mm-hmm. Like, it is not worth spending $1,000 just so that the youth group can use Pro Presenter once a week.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not the youth pastor anymore. Somebody else is. They don't use Pro Presenter at all anymore. So, like, I'm like, see, that would have been a waste of money. Yeah. But for the same price, being able to work, because like whenever he wants me to help him with slides, we've got to meet at church and sit in the sound booth together and make the slides. Now, I live across the alley. Fine with me. He lives 5 minutes away. He doesn't care. Right? He's there anyways. Yeah. But being able to do it from his office or from his house, like, that's all right, Mitch. I've learned things today that I did not know, and now I'm
glad to be of service.
Now I'm interested.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Well, I'm gonna have to look at that later.
Yeah, no, there is a ton of functionality, and we can always do something offline. I can show you like how we use it and what we do, and kind of give you a good overview of how it works, so that you can take that to your pastor if you want to get the maybe switch.
Yeah, no, this would be I would have to convince multiple people.
Oh no, but I could arm you with the
yeah, and I would not want to go into that conversation without being able to answer all of their questions before they ask them.
Right. Mm-hmm.
All right. Interesting.
All right.
Yeah,
anyway,
well, I'll have to pick your brain. I'll take a look at it and do some more digging, and then there may be a time in the near future where I ask for your input.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we had another aspect of this that we were going to talk about. We're hitting about an hour on the show here right now, so
yeah, we can save it for another time.
We should move on. So, I want to talk about one thing before we get to what delights us this week. So, we're gonna kind of talk a little bit planning for our WWDC predictees. I decided, and I talked to you about this, and you seem to be on board with this. So tell me if I'm wrong. But with WWDC, I think there's going to be a lot of stuff to talk about, and I like the idea of making multiple predictions. And maybe we don't go with the wagering thing. I don't know. I'll let you give some input on this. But I have essentially 10 categories that I wanted to present to you as options. Now, are you looking at the annual predictees document?
I am, and there's not a category. There's a category missing, and that is Craig Federighi's outfit.
Well, so this is how I've got this set out. So we discussed the possibility of having like questions that we would answer to kind of focus our predictees into very like specific direction, and then have some wild card options. So I've got 3 wild cards built into this, and then because we really like the idea of like looking back at our annual predictees and seeing if we can pull something into this particular event, I also added the 10th category is our annual predictees pick. This is the pick that I think we can wager some points on and see, like maybe put like 1 to 5 points. But I think everything else should be like, I don't know, I'd be good with 1 point, and then offer like either 1 to 3 or 1 to 5 points that we could wager on the predictees pick. So does that sound good to you?
Yeah. Okay. I'm fine with that. And the wagering bit me in the butt so hard last time.
We learned something last time. So, yep. So I figured, most of what we're gonna definitely find out about at WWDC is going to be based on the software side of things, because that's typically where we are. So the categories that I have as is are what new feature is in iOS. So we would pick a new feature that we think is going to come to iOS. An app that's going to come to iOS. Now, this would be an Apple app that they would be adding to iOS that is not currently an app.
And I'm assuming we're including iPadOS as part of iOS.
iPadOS is split out separately.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Oh, I did not read on. Okay.
So the next 2 is a new feature in iPadOS and a new app in iPadOS. Because I have a feeling I know where you're going to go with this.
Well, that's why I was asking. Yeah. The last one.
And then a macOS feature and a macOS app, which I'm okay with maybe talking about eliminating some of the app options.
Well, I think we need to open it up to beyond just Apple apps, because like I can imagine like Adobe brings another of their apps to the iPad. Like they just released a huge update to Fresco and Photoshop. Like, is Illustrator going to wind up on the iPads now?
Okay. Well, but I'm going to tell you the 24-hour rule is in effect on this. So it has to be announced within 24 hours of the keynote.
Right. But like oftentimes at WWDC, they'll be like, oh, this is our new thing, and check out what this company did with it. And it's either like a game or like an art, deal. So that's why I was thinking that might give us a little more variety to pick these apps instead of being like, well, Apple's going to bring the measuring app to the iPad. It might already be there. I don't know.
Yeah.
So we're not reaching for some obscure stuff.
I don't think some of these are not going to be easy. Like,
yeah, and I'm okay with that part.
But and I have a thought for iOS. But I, I don't even know where to go with macOS as far as an app is concerned. So
Overcast.
Yeah, probably. But then I had
so funny.
But that's going to put us at 6 categories, and I wanted to round this out to 10. So we're going to have 3 wild cards. So these are just whatever picks we think we want to throw in here. This would be a good spot for a product as unveiled in orange. or or
Well,
or like you could say something about Apple TV, the Apple TV OS, or a product that you think is going to launch. And we could even have a category that says a product launch. But um, but I thought that that the wild cards would give us an open.
I've made a change. I've made a change to one of them. This is my suggestion: 2 wild cards, 1 buck wild card, and this one has to be like Craig will be wearing an orange floral shirt, or like something non-tech related that will happen, and it's just silly for the point of being silly.
Maybe stagecraft.
Yeah, anything like that. Tim makes a joke about whatever, or Ted Lasso appears. Just like
part of the presentation is in the rainbow stage in Apple Park.
Yeah, something fun, but not tech related, just about the presentation,
about the event. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. So 2 wild card picks, a buck wild card pick.
Yes, I love it.
I like it.
I'm so happy right now.
And then our annual predictees pick. So,
and that annual predictees pick is we pick from the list of the predictees we did at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, the ones
that have
made,
not yet come true.
Right. So the ones that you made that you think you're going to see in this event, I look at the ones that I made.
Yes.
And select one that I think I'm going to see in this event, and then we go from there. I think I've got an easy one that I'm going to pick in that category. But
yeah, I'm looking at this. All right,
my first annual predictees pick is going to be perfect one for that category. So,
all right, I like it. I like the amendments we made. It's good.
Yep, excellent.
And we're saying 24-hour rule applies, right?
24-hour rule applies. I'd be fine with it. Has to be in the event, but you also have the State of the Union in the afternoon. So
yes, and that's where a lot of the nerdy stuff. So I'm putting 24-hour rule applies just so we don't forget. I think I'd like a nice, a nice cool blue.
Cool blue. I think isn't that aqua?
Yeah, with colors, there's a sort of poetic license.
Okay.
I mean, there was a yellow crayon called macaroni and cheese. So I never tried to eat it though, so I can't really tell you.
I'm pretty sure that that's Steve Jobs Aqua right there. So it was lickable. You're not catching any of that reference, are you?
No.
When Steve Jobs introduced, I don't remember which.
Was it the Bondi Blue iMac? That one?
No, I want to say I thought it was after that. But it was when macOS 10 came out. That's when they introduced like the Aqua.
The interface,
interface and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a comment made about it being lickable. So
is that why that one app company is called Lickability?
Might be. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, I never understood that name, but there might be the reference.
So, all right. Well, I think we can. I think we got that button down. So next time we get together, we're going to make our predictees picks for WWDC, and then the following episode we will score them. So I'll talk to you offline about that. All right, let's go ahead and move into what's delighting us today. All right, good sir. What's delighting you today?
No, you go first.
You want me to go first? All right.
Yes.
This is going to be a struggle.
Chivalry is not dead, Mitch.
This is going to be a struggle because I have to talk about this thing because I literally like this. This is one of the coolest TV shows I've seen in a long time, at least from an emotional standpoint. It was so good that I'm going to have a hard time not spoiling it.
Real Housewives of Atlanta.
Yeah. No, I finished Severance on Thursday. To this point, like the last 2 episodes have to be watched together. So if you watch this and you're going through and you're like, well, I got time for 1 episode, but I don't have time for 2, don't watch I think it's episode 8. by itself. You watch episode 8 and episode 9 together, and because you won't be able to stop. So Thursday morning, I get home from doing my troubleshooting and stuff for at the church to fix this camera issue. And I thought, ooh, I've got time for one episode of Severance. I was going to sit down and watch this real quick. Well, when I say I had one time for one episode, it's not like that's all, like I had an hour left. I had about an hour and 45 minutes or something like that, but I got to eat lunch. I got to get ready to go to work, all that. Well, I watched episode 8, and when it finished, I'm like, I can't stop. I got to find out what happens next. So I turn on episode 9, and I have to leave for work at noon. And I did. I went and grabbed lunch, and I got my lunch packed and everything. I got everything ready to go for lunch. Well, I sat down and started watching the second episode. And on the Apple TV, where when you tap the remote, you can see what time the episode would finish.
Mm-hmm.
It was going to finish at 11:54.
Nice.
So I'm like, I'm squeezing this in because I have to see this. And I have never had this emotion before I told my wife, it's either that I'd never had this emotion before, or it was just all of the emotions at once. But when they ended the last scene in the last episode, it was like, and then it's just like they threw you off the cliff. It was like, ah. But I have to tell you, you're gonna watch the first couple episodes and you're gonna think to yourself, this is the slowest show in the world. Everything means something. And as you watch through, it's this perfect song that crescendos, and it gets to be more and more and more as you get through the season. And then when you get to the last episode, that hour-long episode feels like it's 5 minutes. Like it flies by so fast because the pace is so quick and everything is happening so fast. It is one of the best TV shows I've watched in a really long time. And I was really excited, and I hope I didn't spoil it for anybody, but it was so good. Do you know the premise of the show?
I've seen the trailer for it, but that's it.
Okay.
So I'm not entirely sure.
So without spoiling anything, the premise of the show basically is these people work on what's called the severed floor. And the concept behind this is that to create the perfect work-life balance, we're just going to sever your work life from your home life. And so when you're at home, you have no idea what happened at work. When you're at work, you have no idea who you are outside of work. And so like you're just it's like two completely different personalities. And
interesting.
And it creates this incredible tension. And what it is really, and what I see in it, is that it's like this perfect like this old school sci-fi kind of angle, where some of the best sci-fi that's been out over the years has asked a question and then really gone above and beyond to answer that question and show all the pitfalls of what if we could do this, what would happen, and what would be wrong with how this would work. And this show just goes through and does a beautiful job of pointing things out. Some of them punch you in the face. Some of them are so subtle that probably 99% of people are going to miss them. And because I've listened to a couple of episodes of shows now that have talked about Severance, and there's stuff that they're talking about that I'm like, but that's this thing. That's this other thing. I mean, and I'm really trying, I don't want to get too specific, but it's like, well, no, I totally understood it this way, and they understood it completely differently. And it's such a masterfully done show. So highly recommended. Anybody that wants to go see this or wants to see this, it's on Apple TV Plus. If you do not have a Apple TV Plus available to you, it is $5 a month and well worth your $5 to watch this show. So super excited about that.
Yeah, it's on the list.
When you get done watching it, maybe we'll fire off the spoiler horn in some episode, and we'll talk about it because I have thoughts. All right, what's delighting you today, Cam?
What's delighting me? Honestly, I discovered a musician that somehow I have missed the boat on for the last 10 years.
All right.
And apparently most of my friends know who this person is and enjoy their music. And none of them decided to tell me for a decade. Have you heard of Ben Rector?
I might have heard the name. It's not somebody that I've listened to ever.
I don't know if you would enjoy the music. It's very like the upbeat stuff is like very upbeat, light, poppy, piano driven rock. But then he's also got some very like slow, acoustic, melodic, introspective stuff. But like it's the emotional connection that I had with the music is incredibly strong. He's my age. He's 35. He just had his daughter's a few years younger than mine, so he's written a few songs about his daughter. He's a Christian guy, but just really good voice, super fun music. He has one song called Crazy, and it's about how his life is crazy normal. And he wrote this song about like the point is like you listen to these songs on the radio. It's like, how do people live their life this way? And so he decided to flip the script and write about how normal his life is.
Yeah.
Went to bed at 9 p.m. Man, last night was crazy. Like it's this whole thing, but like it's musically really clever and the lyrics are clever. And then anyways, I've listened to like 3 albums in the last day and a half. And he's got one that came out just.
Can you hear that?
Tired of turning on the radio and asking yourself, who lives that kind of life? Because I don't. I need an anthem. I need a song I can sing. So raise your glass if your life is crazy normal. Last night was crazy, yeah, we tore it up again. Kicked off our shoes and went to bed by 9 p.m. We were balling to Netflix, we turned it up to 10. Last night was crazy. I threw my hands up in the air at that detective.
But anyways, so you get the sort of like the light, happy, poppy feel.
Yeah.
But like he makes like lots of stupid like Instagram reels. He just seems like a really fun guy, and I really enjoy the music, and I just am super mad that I had no idea who he was for the last decade.
Yeah.
But it's also like, holy cow, I have 7 albums of music to discover now. So, but yeah.
Do you know who Jonathan Colton is?
No.
Okay. I was going to say, he almost seems to me like a Christian version of Jonathan Colton, was really big about just guitar, like acoustic guitar rock, about geeky stuff back in the day. So, but
yeah. So anyways, highly recommend Ben Record. Anyone, his new album, The Joy of Music, even had like a short film that came with it. It's like the cover is like him in like this weird, like Sesame Street looking kind of character. And there's some really, really good stuff. And his love songs are.
You get misty.
Yeah. Well, and he's got one that is just called Daughter, and it's how his life is about how his life has changed because he's got a daughter now, and like it's simultaneously really funny, and then also like he gets it. Yeah. Like he makes a comment of something like, I don't care what I wear anymore, like don't judge me in my socks and sandals. And like, okay, like the typical like dad uniform, but then also like how your priorities change, and it's just it threads the holy cow, like this is a song about real life. So yeah, a lot of his stuff
sounds like fun stuff.
Yeah, just his stuff really lands good with me. The music is fun, and he's not afraid to be goofy, but also sing about like real life stuff. And his lyrics are not like what's like cookie cutter.
Right.
Like he'll not rhyme on purpose just to make a point. Like I'm gonna change the melody and not rhyme because this is what I want to say. So screw your conventions. This is what this song is about, and this is how I want to say it. And if it's different, and I'm like, I can get on board with this.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, it's been a long time since I've heard a new musician new to me where immediately after one song I was like, "Yep, we're best friends."
Yeah.
So I mean, it's happened a lot in my life, and I still listen to those bands and those albums, but it's been a while since that has happened.
Yeah.
I think the last time it happened was with the band Mute Math. You know who they are?
Oh, I want to say that I've heard of them, but I'm not.
I think you would like that. They're very much not like Band Raptor in any way. It's all one word. It's a lot more rock and roll, but in a not typical way. I don't know. They're a ton of fun, or they were, should I say? Wah, wah.
They're not around anymore.
It's just the lead singer now, I think, doing music under the same name, but a lot of the guys have left. Like the original drummer and the original bassist are all gone.
Do you have a particular track? Looks like he did some stuff for Twilight and Transformers.
Yeah, one of their songs, Spotlight, was in Twilight. I don't know which one was in Transformers.
It literally just says Transformers theme.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
So their first album.
Hold on.
You should go to the first album and do either Typical or Break the Same. Those are like classic Mute Math jams.
Yeah, let's just try. What's the name of the album?
It's just Mute Math.
And
I want to say it was
which song?
like either Typical or Break the Same.
Okay, we'll do Typical.
The lead singer plays keys, and so in some of their softer stuff, I mean, he's a very good piano player, but he'll play like the synth and that sort of stuff, and he does like handstands on the keyboard while he's like live. Like it's pretty fun.
Yeah.
You don't like it?
I mean, it's good music. I don't know if it's my jam, but
I figured of the two that I brought up, this would probably be more your style than.
I could definitely dig this in certain moods.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so that's it for me. Just I found a new music best friend. So
all right, so
it makes me happy.
Ben Rector, Rector.
Yep.
All right. Cool. By the way, that those musical interludes were brought to you by my Tascam Mixcast 4, which I connected via Bluetooth, and it was great.
Fair use. Just want to say that a couple times. Fair use.
You know, I kind of feel like we can get away with it because we don't have like 100 listeners. So,
well, yeah, we're not monetizing.
We're not
monetizing. It's free advertising. It's what that is.
Free advertising. There you go.
All right.
Well, we'll wrap her up then. You can always check us out at innerdialogue.show if you wanted to check out the back catalog, and whatever. And if you want to get a hold of us, man, I should talk about something. We should have a conversation about social media. Because
Not right now, though.
I'm going to tell you that yeah, we don't have time right now. But I'm going to tell you, I've been getting more and more tempted just to quit it all and start focusing on meaningful relationships instead of like our little plastic relationships that we have on social media. So
Yeah, we'll save that for another time.
Yeah, we'll have to say that for another time. But anyway, if you do want to catch us on our social media, you can check out our websites. We have links on our websites. I do check my Twitter. Cam does not, so don't hit him up on Twitter. But he does check his Instagram. So my website, mitchcraig.online.
CamBrennan.com.
All right. So catch up with us. We'd love to hear what you have to say. And maybe we'll even talk about it on a future show. So very good. As far as that's concerned, Cam, looking forward to WWDC season coming up. And our next show, we should be doing picks. So I'm excited about that.
I just realized last night, too, as I was thinking of this, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have iOS 16 beta on my iPad in a month. Playing with new things.
Yep.
It's Christmas in June.
Yep. Very cool.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm excited. But
all right. Well, Cam, it's been fun.
Indeed.
Enjoy the beautiful weather.
Yes.
It's been way too hot this last week.
It's been in the 90s. There was one day here that heat index got up to 100.
Yeah, we were close to it on Thursday for sure.
I was like, man, no thanks. Where did this now? Of course, we're talking weather now. We're gonna have nice weather for the next week. It's gonna be back in the 70s where it should be this time of year. But
we had a good line of storms come through last night too. That was fun.
We didn't get that. But all right.
Anyway, man, you have a wonderful day.
You too.
All right.
Ta-ta for now.
Mm-hmm.